All right, thank you and everyone for joining us for the Internet of Value Foundation New York, episode 136. And for all of those who get to listen to this information in the future, I hope you guys find it as valuable as I know I do every single day. The diverse amount of mindsets and perspectives that come and speak in this space, and the time that everyone takes out to come share their insights. And Shellfish Fridge, welcome to the space, guys. I had a technical difficulty there at first, but hopefully it is resolved. And welcome up. I'm gonna grab some content to put up top on the topics of robotics, and I might switch the title around more community oriented to see if we can get more people in here if we don't get more of the community in here at first. But yeah, I mean, uh, this is something that somebody actually had a post of the other day. They were like, "I'd like to talk about robotics," and it inspired me to kind of bring up some interesting things where you're thinking about automation, robotics, and neuroplasticity of the neurological structure of the way that our brains operate in a uh, synthetic or a silicon based chip form, and what I think the short term and the long term implications of that is. But welcome up, Rich.
Hey, what's happening? Just just joining early. I only took speaker because I'm here. But yeah, just ask me for my opinion, I guess.
Oh, I will, so don't even worry about it, man. And anybody who is in the space, feel free to come up if you guys would like to give your thoughts on any of the topics or anything that we speak about. Give me a moment. I'm still just grabbing some content. Welcome up, Lip.
Death Ranger, hey, how you doing?
Doing well today. How about yourself?
No, I'm doing good, can't complain. So today's gonna be a robotics. I was about to ask you about some particle accelerators.
Go ahead. Yeah, for sure. I have no issue. No issue talking physics for a little bit. Something I very much so enjoy.
All right, I'm trying to think of his name. I'm not trying to pull a Terrence Howard, but the only topic I'm trying to ask about is shapes to numbers to certain structures that allow you to do different properties in different atoms or matter. So with Shiva or Geneva, Switzerland, I'm just gonna speed it up. But I'm trying to basically say that particle accelerator that they got in Geneva, Switzerland,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they got it in a certain shape with them connecting, and it reminds me of a triskelion. So I'm just trying to ask these ancient shapes that I guess we know about or heard about through different teachings. What's your take on stuff like that?
So the shape that they have being a large circle is what it is because it takes a tremendous amount of power for them to do the test that they're doing, right? And so it takes actually an elongated period of time where the acceleration of these particles may take place with energy that's being transported into the vector in space that is the Large Hadron Collider, right? And one way to describe it is you have a beam of light, right, of typically hydrons, right, oh, my brain, gosh, today, hydrogen, right, particles that are being accelerated down this pathway, and they are being accelerated by magnets and different arrays of bending of light, typically from crystals that are made into what you would think of as like a mirror, where you would see light bounce off of it, and this increases the velocity of the beam. We just don't have the sufficient amount of technology to be able to produce it in a smaller, say, capacity, right? And so instead of just building the beam straight, which is something you could have done, right? You could just build the pathway straight, which would have, of course, taken it to territory which they don't have the proper authority to build into. Built a circular structure. Plus, it makes a lot more sense from a institutional standpoint. You have all of the located services that you would need in a much more centrally located area rather than if it was just going a straight direction. Obviously it's much farther distance to be covered.
Mm-hmm. So then this is what I noticed too, Duff Ranger. So with them working on it, with like you said, with the magnets as well as how that structure is made, I noticed that they built like I don't want to say on top of it, but they added more to it. So if I'm not mistaken, it's like three of them, and how the circle goes is like a six, right? So now you got these three sixes in a certain position that looks just like a triskelion. So it's like this mathematical shape has all these properties. So that was the only correlation to Terrence Howard when he tried to talk about the flower of life, because it's basically these different measurements that allow us to have different properties or do different things. And a lot of people don't know about these teachings, but the way we find out about it is through, I guess, the old teachings, and we
Well, you know, so
comprehend it
a
better.
lot of what Terrence Howard speaks about is a particular author who wrote information, in like the 70s to try and like debunk Einstein and a couple other physicists at the time. And it's not that all of the information is incorrect. It's just that a lot of it, from a physical standpoint, is able to be proven to be incorrect in the math. In the end of the day, it doesn't produce. And this is not right for my direct testing, but there's actually a couple. There's one physicist that actually I could send you the video where he talks about, and they debunk, right, as the comments come up, they debunk the exact claim, so you can have a representation of which kind of theme is being talked about in particular, which representation of physics. Um, I would say though that this about this symbolization, these geometric representations,
Hmm.
this is able to be seen everywhere. You look at any plant and any structural means of atomic molecules represented as a bonding set. You have these Fibonacci sequences, and there's really great meaning to why, right, that they have them. If you look at the way that the geometrical representation of gravity is assimilated in our particular solar system, you get kind of you start to get an answer on where the shaping of these particular instances may come from. And it actually, in my opinion, raises larger questions to thinking about beings in life on other planets and other structures outside of the solar system, which may have some sort of a different set of Fibonacci sequences, the patterns of rotation that a whole solar system may have with itself, and what those representations may actually mean from a physical state. I think that's really cool to think about, but also thinking about how we would exist in that, kind of structure, right? Does taking us out of this particular sequence and putting us into another one, what are the effects of that? So, yeah, I mean, you know,
Yeah, now you read my mind, Duff Ranger.
yeah, but nothing in particular where the Large Hadron Collider. We're going to be building the same sort of technology in the United States. It was passed inside of the $1 trillion build. What was the?
Build back better?
I'm pretty sure it was Build Back Better. Yeah,
Nah, for real?
but yeah, it was. Yes, I think it was like $16 billion that was
Oh my god.
allocated to it inside of there, and that's being done. I'm pretty sure in over by Ohio and that Michigan area. They're going to be building. It'll be the largest uh, particle accelerator to ever exist, but it'll probably also take a decade to build. So that'll be something. Sure.
And they're building this in Ohio. That's interesting.
Yeah,
It's definitely.
when I looked at the map, it was like that generalized area. Don't quote me on Ohio, but I know it's the Midwest, North Midwest.
I mean, it would make sense. There's been a lot of stuff going on in that region.
I don't know. I don't
Properties.
know if it has anything to do with it necessarily, of anything going on in the region, but yeah, I mean,
Get
uh,
the property for a good price. That's all I'm insinuating. But yeah.
yeah, I think there was an institute in that location, um, which is highly known for particle physics, and they're going to be like the the lead on this. It's typically how it happens in the United States, right? Where a Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, right, is being done by CERN, which is very closely associated with the government. In the United States, you don't really see private association have such a statures, right? Like your Amazon is not government associated, or because that most people would think that might be weird. But nonetheless, we see institutes, right? So colleges and places where they're educational wise, typically foundations and or of the sort that typically lead these types of projects. But yeah, going back to robotics, I mean, yeah, I love that Sierra is in the space, and if you can come up in a few minutes, feel free whenever. But I posted a post from you earlier about the recent announcement of a prosthetic that somebody has and can get, which actually returns the ability to have temperature feeling to your hand or your arm, right? And so that's something where we think about not only returning the physical ability to do whatever action it was that you had lost by losing whatever limb or structure that you may have not even actually been born with. There's also another possibility. I think a more interesting, but much less um, probable case where prosthetics will help. But uh, returning the the actionable state and the actual sensations with it, that's really interesting. And it goes into the next kind of thing I have, which is like merger up there. Which when I think of merger and robotics and automation and neuromorphic chips. And actually, I have a couple more pieces of content I want to put up top before we close up. But the close design ability to really have this silicon based structure, which can be represented in the way that the same electronic significance of the neurons firing off in our brain, creating these axioms and structures of neurological pathways, can compute into very miniature sized microchips, right? So it's the same kind of basis that the way that the brain functions, being able to be represented in a silicon based environment, which is modular and can be built to also be able to communicate with us in our bodies. And then thinking about first step, right, returning limb function to people who may have lost it, or spinal cord injuries and returning nerve damaged structures in the body. And then I think then, to me, what I think about, because obviously I'm sorry, I shouldn't say obviously, but I don't suffer any of those types of ailments. uh, the extra use cases where I think about external structures, exosuits, things of these representations. I mean, one example I'll give, right? Halo, we have the Master Chief. And something really interesting about Master Chief is he was actually an enhanced human, right? Who had this AI, or this large language model system, that existed in his suit. But I think the interesting representation of the Master Chief was he was not only an enhanced human, but was technologically able to interact with this particular type of suit, which gave him some extra enhancement. And so I think that you see the combining of the physical states of systems, silicon based to titanium based, robotic based, and then the attachment where we can kind of bridge the communication of systems between us, being neuromorphic chip designs. I think it takes automation to an entirely different level. And I've spoken a lot. So any thoughts on any of this from Lip or Fridge, or anyone that wants to come up, please feel free to hit the request.
Well, all the Halo examples, that those are all devices of war. That's so Like, where could we use it?
Well, okay, so as much as Halo was based on the storyline of intergalactic war, being the necessity to increase the technological advancements that were occurring, but okay, so still, there were still people in exosuits who were lifting storage, right, delivering food and cargo to other men and women and those serving in the intergalactic wars, and so from maybe from a focus standpoint, even though that was the example I'm giving, I think the analogy I would really like to focus on more was the robotic enhancement that an individual who was able to lift a ton of cargo and then transport it into a vehicle really quickly and from a physical standpoint exerted absolutely no physical force of their own. I think that's a great example of like a where we could think about like a use case for this. I think exosuits are definitely. Oh, host having connections. Give me 1 second there.
I still think a lot of these advancements are they're terrifying. Like they're neat in one aspect. Like if I'm playing a video game and I'm using it, that's awesome. But when you apply it to our reality, it's like it seems very bleak for me. Like in the next 10 years, we're going to see some of uh, the greatest advancements, but at the same time, we're going to be taking like 20 steps back for us as humanity. And a lot of this momentum forward, it's only for the top, right? So the benefits of these things are for who and for and to what end? Like, are we just making? We need a robot to pick up a box to send it, to put it on a ship, because all these people are buying these plastic widgets, right? That's what we need this for.
I'm sorry. I missed what you had said at the end there, Fridge. If the space drops, I will rehost it real quickly. For some reason, it won't let me reconnect.
It wasn't that important, but it, I don't know. I think it's awesome, but at the same time, I have no positive outlook on cargo devices.
You had mentioned something about fidget spinners.
That's the part you heard. Uh, yeah, that's what I was. Yeah.
So okay, so from I don't know why it hit my brain the way it did when you said fidget spinners though, because I was thinking from an intergalactic standpoint of oh man, this is so strange. For some reason, every time I try and reconnect, the entire app crashes. Um, So from a intergalactic standpoint, fidget spinners, right? Something as simple as fidget spinners, if was wanting to be allocated as a larger resource, right? Say many people in different systems wanted fidget spinners. Thinking about magnitudes of how many of our species may exist, and of other species, maybe whatever interactions may be occurring from a market standpoint, you could dedicate an entire planet to possibly creating fidget spinners. And so thinking about how important automation is and robotics, making the most efficient means of being able to create and automate maybe the way that the fidget spinners would be able to be made and handed out could be something that right on a planetary scale could be of importance. And yeah, I don't know why it hit me that way, but this was a thought. Sierra, welcome to the space.
Hey, y'all. You're talking about my favorite topic. Sorry, I had some background noise, so I couldn't join in till now. I hope my audio is not bad. Um, I also couldn't see my screen, so I don't know who was speaking last before you, Death, but I think it was Is the Fridge. Uh, if that is correct, I want to address some of his concerns. So, and I know your audio cut out, Death, so you didn't really hear this. But where were we? We were talking about mix, or mechan I can't remember the name that you used for it, but you made the comparison to um, Halo. And I'm not a video game player, sorry guys, but I know that they wear like mechs. They're in some sort of automated armor that enhances their physical abilities. And Fridge's concerns were like, what do we really need that for outside of a war scenario, and who is it benefiting? And we talk about this a lot when it comes to um, the point in automation that we're at right now, which is really a like major step change for human civilization. And it is easy to think of only the negative use cases, but at the same time, like there are people out there in 2024 whose job it is to push a button all day long. That's all they push a button. Like those jobs still exist, or to move a package from one place to the other. Or maybe they need to bring in heavy machinery because they're moving really heavy packages. And if we could give those people their time back to do more productive things with their brain power, because I'm sure they didn't grow up aspiring to be button pushers, and they're probably capable of more. I think it could be a really beautiful thing for humanity. And ultimately, we'll have more time to spend with each other, to spend pursuing passions and art and innovation and things that inspire us rather than working 60 hours a week pushing a button. Maybe that wasn't the best example with mechs, but I think it is with automation and the types of jobs that will be replaced most heavily in the beginning.
Well, as far as like a positive outlook for the future concerning these automations, I, I would rather see a more humans find a more uh, what am I looking for? That, you know, we find an equilibrium with everything. We actually find our place instead of just consuming and destroying. Automation is just going to this AI and robotics. It's going to take what we have now and put it in hyperdrive. It's going to throw us further and further away from what I just said. That equilibrium with this earth, right? We are going to mechanize the fucking moon eventually. I'm absolutely certain. If it's not already, you know, something, you know, we're going to destroy everything we touch until it is no longer natural. And that's what I see with robotics and automation. No, we're going to try and take the earth and move it to save it, right? We're going to wrap it with fucking metal. And like, when does it end? And who's actually benefiting from us moving at this pace and towards what I was saying, like a cargo mover is not that exciting. Uh, a cargo mover that can do it can do all the work on its own sounds even less exciting. So who's buying these products that doesn't need people to create them? It's just I also don't buy into the idea that people are going to find their purpose without I don't know. I just don't see it. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Maybe I don't know.
It's hard to imagine because everything about our economy and our global economy and the way that we function as a society is based around the idea of scarcity. Absolutely everything that drives our economy is based on scarcity. However, when we reach a certain point in automation where all basic human needs can be met absent human labor, so food, water, housing, when we fully automate the agricultural world, when we ideally, in the wake of AGI, will discover new forms of energy. It seems like death is teetering on the space crashing. So just everybody be mindful. If it does go, that is why. And he said he would open up a new one. Um, but it's hard to picture a world absent scarcity where you don't have to work to have basic human needs met: food, water, housing. If we can automate those things, uh, I do
But
think that people
Sarah,
will
that's kind of
pursue.
utopia. The whole sense and the meaning of life would lose its essence, like
I think
because
I think that's more.
labor is what creates a human, actually. Like if your mind gets too much space, you see what's happening nowadays in the spaces. Like, for example, take a look at the spaces. We indulge ourselves into intellectual conversations, expanding our the conceptual cognitive perception of the world that's actually in a material way. It's not manifesting itself any further than the outer borders of its own shape and form. So whatever philosophical metaphor you're going to use for the future picture of the world, it's not bright, it's not shiny, even though the whole point of religion was to create the order among the humans, so we would serve the god by serving each other for the sakes of love of god, and by that achieving the equilibrium in which the scarcity would be eradicated because it would be shared out of the goodness among the people and out of the merciful way of behavior. But there is, like, people like to consider themselves unique, and out of that uniqueness there is no space for ego to consider itself average. So we like to create scarcity, we like to give importance to ourselves, our work, our words and deeds. So I don't think that the ego can be conquered by any kind of automation, neither the unique world order that could impose those kind of restrictions on human behavior. Look at the Western society that are condemning the Chinese Communist Party for organizing 1 billion of people in such way that everyone goes to job, is not allowed to go on Google, is not allowed to express the free opinion. So I'm not quite sure if the West and democracy is is going to add another layer to it. For me, it's kind of hard.
Right. Sorry about that. All right, we are back. Let me send some invites out, see if we can get the same people in here. Back to that same exact conversation. I don't want to lose where we were at. I was enjoying it, and I think. Well, I mean, I knew what was wrong with what had happened, but I thought I could get around it. But man, it just would not let me get around it. It it wanted to update. I started the space prior to it updating. I updated while it was in the space because for some reason my app closed and updated itself, and it would not let me back in the space. So it's the first time that's happened, but it's
Well,
cool.
I was literally pushing my hand to, like, come into this space, and it rugged right then because I was gonna back Sierra up on her part, but I'll wait till, like, the room fills back up if you wanna give it a minute.
Well,
Hey, Shelly.
yes, and to one thing, Sierra, you had not mentioned anything about from a sociological standpoint, right, or a sociological standpoint, um, the the change that may occur inside of the species from automation occurring. You explained from a physical, actionable state the difference, and yeah, that nonetheless, that becomes the truth when automation replaces the jobs that, for instance, somebody who works at the mail department, and all they do is pick up a letter and put it in the slot. They pick up a letter and they put it in the slot, and that is for, sorry about that, 5 to 6 days a week. It ends up being 30 to 40,000 hours of their time that they've spent possibly in their lifetime, um, which is a very large portion if you think about the amount of time that you get to actually be awake because you sleep for half of your lifetime almost. So one eighth of your lifetime, depending on who you are. But sorry, 1/4 of your lifetime. Oh my gosh, my brain today. Yeah, so it's a lot of time. I will be right back though. I'm getting a phone call, so if you guys want to jump on in on it.
Sounds good. Crawfish, if you want to chime in,
It's
I know
nice
you
it's
said you
nice
had some
yeah, it's nice to see
commentary.
you or speak with you again. It's been a little while. Yeah,
You as well.
I think a lot of the people that are stuck with the lacking mindset and the earthbound mindset, are not really taking into consideration the off-planet traveling and expanding the species and, the necessity of being able to, have the controlled environments for agriculture and, just, I don't know, spreading out, spreading the seed across the stars. It's very earthbound mentality, which is okay because we've been totally earthbound for our entire existence. So to have that kind of mentality is going to take a big shift, um, as well as just the utilization of product. If we have, um, I don't know. So, Fridge, you were actually saying something about how we would just be on the planet. I can't remember what you said that we were gonna metal make the planet entirely metal. Um, but what if we actually because I mean if you look around the solar system, there are no really plants or animals or life like we have it quite here. So what if I don't know. Um, what if this planet was seeded, and, we are just supposed to keep doing that, like, keep going from solar system to solar system and keep seeding different stars, and the surrounding planets. I know you play games. I know you game. We've talked in spaces about games, so, um
Well, typically when you seed something, it's because you plan on picking it at a later date. So let's hope not. We're not part of that seeding process, if that be the case. But I do think that even taking it from like a really really close to home standpoint. robotic dogs. Sierra, one of Sierra's favorite thing, robotic dogs, and even in just the most simplest cases, right? Like inspectors, they're already being replaced by robotics dogs that have better tools than that we have associated with our eyes, right? From a visual standpoint, infrareds, you have air detectors, right? Gas detectors. I mean, this all could be assimilated onto a robotic dog, which would be able to read a pressure change in a room and be able to tell where the pressure change is coming from and find the exact issue. So, that's a really close to home, already happening example from an automation standpoint, where it's robotics that's being automated from physically being able to move around with us. I'm sorry. Was that closely aligned with what you were saying, Shellfish?
Um, I mean, I kind of disagree with like the whole I plant something because I want to pluck it. I plant flowers all the time just to look at it because it's pretty, and I have children. I don't want to pluck them. They are from seeds.
It's a very good point. But
Technically, those have
also,
been eggs, but yeah, I mean, same context of where origin of something may start. So, and this is from like a plant standpoint, right? One of the reasons that we do plant seeds or have babies, right, representations of the further offspring, is because we know that we're going to die. Plants have the same kind of understanding, right? Conceptually, it's survival of the fittest. That seems to be somewhat inherently built into the cellular organic structure of life in itself. This kind of origin of increased velocity of change and or death, right? Ceasing to exist as we at least observe it from our physical states. And yeah, I think thinking about that kind of next iteration, I mean, it's almost inevitable. That's kind of the thought of why you replicate, why you recreate, so that your cellular selves, your thoughts of representation carries on. And that's why I think also like these audio files are so powerful, because up until today, up until our lifetimes, the only way that you had some sort of representation of meaningful states in the future was having that writings that were and kept well, and then were able to be replicated in All right. It didn't even tell me that time. At least I don't know about for you guys. It did not say that host was having issues connecting. So I have no idea. But if it drops this time, we will call it and say that it was just meant to be. So that is it. Let's see if we can get everyone back in here. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. All right, though. Back to where we were. Robotics. We were talking about. In particular, we were talking about. What was I just saying before the space dropped? Um,
Spreading our seeds across the
Spreading the
universe.
seeds, yeah, and why the reasoning for why life persists, right? Or the increase in velocity of really information transfer, and we being very large masses of information, if you think about it that way, which is pretty cool from a volume standpoint. Um, but yeah, feel free. I know you guys, Sierra and Shellfish, you guys both had something you guys wanted to say, so go ahead. Shellfish,
Sorry, have to put out a fire here.
you had to put out a fire.
My two girls are
Metaphorical.
not a literal fire, like
Metaphorical.
a figurative, like yeah.
I can go first if you need a second. So just to expand on some things that Shellfish had said regarding, I don't think it was Fridge's concern actually. I think there was another gentleman, it might have been Elephant, who spoke after him, but concerning pretty much turning our entire planet into one giant machine and like stamping out all kinds of organic life and basically having like a parasitic effect on the planet. I Shellfish brought up the potential of an opposite future where instead we expand our organic life environment here on Earth to other planets and other places in the solar system, which I definitely think is a possibility when we remove the need for people to be doing like redundant, laborious jobs that aren't really utilizing any of their creative mindset or innovative brain power. I think one of the first things that we will do is explore and expand both here on Earth, unexplored areas, and also into the stars. Additionally, someone had mentioned, and we've moved around so much that I don't remember who, I'm sorry, that labor is what drives our species. And I absolutely disagree with that. The procreation is what drives our species. It's the most innate, inherent purpose of any species. We have one purpose, and it is to reproduce and to procreate. And right now, with the current state of necessity of labor and people working so much, we're not doing that. We're not procreating, and population decline is kind of running rampant and possesses a major threat to our civilization. So I think even if we can't reach a scarcity free society, if we can reduce the amount of scarcity and give people more time so that they don't live to labor, we will continue to reproduce. And that is my take. I also want to say hi to Jay, who attends some of my other spaces that we're in, and I'm glad to see him here. We'll have
Yes,
some
welcome up, Jay.
valuable input.
Yeah, just enjoying the conversation right now. I'm 2 miles away from my house. I'm walking because we got to do that too. So, yeah. I'll chime in later.
Well, thank you for coming to the space and joining us. And I couldn't agree more, Sierra. And this is a actually I'll go back before we go forward. Go to the 1700s when electricity was introduced. The largest industry at the time was candle making, wax structures of candles, and all of the candle makers were up in arms. Or there was literal riots right in France, and all over them thinking they were going to lose their jobs because if there was a production of electricity, which meant lights being set up on streets, what are they going to do, right? What's their purpose? And as we are today in the 2000s, we know that candles are still around, and of course, most candles are probably made in factories by automation and robotics that are doing it. But all of those bloodlines, right? They didn't just die off there. They went and they created different actions and different objects and in different industries, if it may be. And through that procurement, all of these new things that we have today were created. And I think that you just take that inventive state of having the ability to be inventive by itself, right? Just the time to be inventive, which many of us may not have. I think we're going to see a whole bunch of production that gets made from such a state, and it being an opportunity state, which it's not like it's being something's being taken away from you, where we don't have any jobs in society, and so there's no way for you to pay for your food and your water and your bills and everything that may be. I think we progress very quickly from the positioning of robotics and automation takes up more than 85% of the jobs worldwide, to us being in a state of relative ease where everyone kind of has this. And this is for, I think, much international wise rather than just singular wise. The world's coming to a point where there's really no excuse that everyone in the world can't have equal means of the ability to live. And of course, you have representations like China and other places in the world where the government has a very strong fist already on the people. And so there are rough situations where that technology may exist and they might not benefit the most from it. But we also have that example to go off of in Western civilization where we can kind of do the exact opposite. I don't like to talk about like dichotomies of things, but uh, if you're looking for an example of a polarity of actionable states of where the technology can be utilized in a way that we don't want it, well, we have an example. And so I think that gives us also the biggest chance to have a benefit from it. But I think robot dogs are awesome. Yeah. They're one. They're they're probably one of my favorite robotic sets that we have so far. They have so many use cases, so many capabilities, from nurturing in nature, where you could have you know robot dogs that have relationships with kids and children that are growing up. So someone has a companion with them that also has the ability to have video recording and all. Maybe a large language model associated with it. And I mean, thinking higher level stuff. It also provides security in that instance, right? Because say a child is crossing the street or is getting close to the end of the yard, you could have some sort of robotic system that could sense that and be able to give a warning to the child, right? You're getting close to the road, please turn around. I think just simple things like that, all the way back to like the inspectors, air, even airliner inspectors, right? Having dogs be able to walk around a ship and virtually scan using X-ray to make sure all of the screws are set and locked into place. Like there's just so many opportunities for robot dogs. Shellfish, please go ahead.
So with like the advances of being able to interpret what animals are thinking or saying to each other, like kind of like in, was it Up? I think it was the movie Up. Um, would you think that they would eventually chip dogs so that way you would just connect with them like do the telepathy chips as well, or like a Neuralink, so you wouldn't even have to have a robot dog, you could just connect with your actual animal on that level?
Sorry, go ahead.
So it's an interesting thought, and I haven't given it much thought, but I did watch a movie on Disney recently with my son, where a like extremely intelligent middle school level student in like a California STEM school designed a technology like that collar in up to allow him to like understand what his dog was saying. And you know, with the ability to use AI to analyze patterns in behavior, we've already uh, been able to apparently translate like the communication of whales simply through pattern observation and amounts of parallel data processing and noticing that they communicate in certain frequencies before certain behaviors. So that's definitely a very interesting application, and maybe we could gain a deeper understanding of the natural world through the use of technology. Even plants are like respond to frequency. So the ability to analyze frequency that we can't hear with the human ear definitely has a lot of potential. That's a funny thought, shellfish. I like it.
I think the largest thing though from what you had said though, Shellfish, was not only the receiving of us being able to understand the information that may be being associated with what the dog's thoughts are at that moment, but it being able to perceive our thoughts and understand that. And I think from like a larger picture standpoint, this is where we might view an opportunity to actually change the topographical structure of the way that maybe in a dog, an animal, its brain neurons actually fire off, because the dog is a dog and we're human, and there are different structural means of the way that the neurons are building synaptics in the brains. And so even if we were to communicate to a dog exactly with the electromagnetic frequency and means that you and I understand it in English, what would that mean to a dog? And if they were able to understand it how you and I understand it, would their brains need to be more like human brains, or would we be able to somehow compress this information into a way that the dog's brain would be able to understand it? And then I wonder the implications of that. Would we, from literally from a topographical structure, be able to alter the cellular means of the way that the neurons in the dog's brain fires off? And from a genetic standpoint, from future generations, we've like enhanced this neurological structure of the dog, and it kind of stays on the trajectory. I think it's just a really cool thing. um, I think we already see examples of it where, like in Africa, there are tribes of monkeys that are beginning to make and use tools, and I think that's from interacting with humans. So it's like we already kind of have an example of where we can do that in an ecosystem, uh, organically. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. Sorry, Sierra, I saw you on mute.
No, that's okay. I'm glad you brought up the primates entering the Stone Age because I recently read some things on that too, and I think it is definitely interesting. However, I do think that there are serious ethical implications of messing with biology that is not our own species. Like it's not something that I'm particularly anxious to do. Uh, I think if we want to alter our own brains, and we will, like I don't think it will be long before options like Neuralink are optional enhancements and not just for therapeutic or medical purposes. Like we will see that in our lifetime, and we will have a population of people who decide to become enhanced, and then probably also a percentage of the population that decides to not and remain unaltered. And with that, we're going to see probably a massive divide in within our own civilization. But I'm not super anxious to start messing with the biology of other species. I think that it there's so much more of a chance that it doesn't go well for us. And I'll say one more thing, and then Shellfish, I see your hand, and Ryan too. So there, my sister lived in this part of Florida um, for a few years where they created a species of bugs called love bugs. You can read about them in a college lab, and they did it with the intention of addressing like an overpopulation of another insect species, but it didn't work, and they ended up not being a predator to the intended species that they were targeting, and not really prey to anything either. And now, a couple of times a year, they call it love bug season. They have the outrageous swarms of these bugs that they created that have no place in the ecosystem and are just reproducing and growing in population at a rapid and unmanageable rate, and they don't know what to do. It's like, what do they do it again and try and introduce a predator to that species now, because it didn't work last time. And I will land it right there.
You are such a sweetheart, though, I have to say, with the just the notion that that ethics is at the forefront. So yeah, and Florida's done that multiple times, actually, multiple invasive species. But Ryan, man, welcome up. You got your hand up, and then we'll roll over to Shellfish.
Yeah, thanks for having me up. Great conversation in here. I just wanted to go back to the issue of robotics and jobs for a second, because that's something that I've thought about often and spoke about before. And I think a lot of resistance that we are going to get to robotics and AI, which could lead to like cries for regulation and so on and so forth, which I'm personally against, is the issue of jobs, taking jobs. And in my opinion, I don't. I like what Sierra said about that. What stuck out in my mind there was when we get to a point where we no longer, quote, have to labor to live. And that's a good way to frame it, labor to live. A job is essentially compensation for value that you provide. And I think that as AI and robotics develop, we're going to see a shift away from the need to laborious activities to be compensated. But that doesn't mean that the needs of human beings are going to decrease. They're just going to shift. And so you're going to see human beings participating more in exploration, adventure, entertainment, the arts, health, that kind of thing. And so, kind of like the Star Trek realm of jobs, right? We're looking at, science, technology, engineering, health, entertainment, and exploration. And so, I think there will always be an area to add value to all of those things once the labor side of humanity is taken over. And then the other thing I just wanted to say was I'm with you, Sierra, on the tinkering of biology. I think that that's something that I'm not keen to go down too quickly. We don't, especially we don't want to have ourselves turned into gray goo. So I'm with you there. But thanks for having me up. I'm just headed into the gym, so I'll participate as I can. But if I get on my hamster wheel, I'll drop down to listener.
Oh, thank you very much for coming up and participating. Shellfish, please go ahead.
Okay, so we know that they've already chipped a monkey because it did Pong, right? And I think a pig. And you have to figure out if they're connected, etc. Um, so do you? I mean, obviously, I would think they're not the only test subjects. Do you allow for them to continue their life and then um, be connected to the human consciousness, like when everything gets connected, or um, I mean, because we also have biological life that is like being um, like life extension being tested and all that fun stuff. So, I mean, where does the testing end and the allowance of other species to, I guess, coexist in that consciousness, in a telepathical uh, state of mind, I guess, like that hive mind. Like, do you do that so that way you have more compassion to the entire existence of life itself? I know we've discussed the progression of veganism in these spaces before, just because of the awareness that Mr. Pig is like having a family and saying don't eat me and etc. But the actual hive mind mentality just levels it up quite a bit more than just having a conversation with said species.
Well, so it was a lot. I don't but I'll tackle it from what I think the angle I can come from. So like from the hive mind standpoint, I think if you think about people being interconnected, the realm of what we're really saying is the information that exists is able to be transferred and executed upon that transfer, and an acknowledgement, right, an understanding of that information in a much larger capacity than it is today. Today, me and you, to be able to communicate, I have to create words, which means I have to vocalize this, right? I create energy in my body, and my body has to do a physical state of change, which then produces this external manifestation of energy. It vibrates right to your body, and you perceive it as whatever form. You're talking about from the standpoint of diagnosing the information, understanding or having an experience, perceiving to have an experience, and that information being instantaneously transferred to other individuals. I think it's an interesting thing. I definitely think of things like Neuralink and the ability to increase our neuroplasticity for sure will provide that ability to happen in the future. And the hive mind, even from a collective sense, is always very powerful to me. We as a species, if you get enough people into a room and they want to see results and they can manifest those results, I truly believe from a physical standpoint, the ability of those representations to make actionable changes is definitely significant. The pig thing, though, is interesting, right? So I don't necessarily think that I'd be able to say, well, the words that came from the pig were, please don't kill me, don't eat me. But I think there's definitely an easy representation to say maybe the pig understands that it's something of fear, something of malicious nature is about to occur to it, and the signals that it lets off is right something like please don't eat me, right? That's how we would kind of perceive it, right? The pig doesn't actually think that, maybe to create those words of logic, um, but to us to understand that and then to propagate that information in a hive mind, and everyone says, oh wow, the pig doesn't want to be eaten or something. I think, yeah, sure, that could definitely be really impactful in sub significance. I would say myself, right, this is just my own personal view, I would say the only reason that we should be killing the pig is to eat the pig, and if therefore, you know, I don't mind explaining that to a pig if that be the case, right? This is for the betterment of the species and existence, and if I am to be eaten at the end of my time to betterment the species, of course that's crazy to say, right, for some people, but I believe it is for the species. Our existence is for the propagation of experience, and the particular experience I would like to see persist is my species exist. And so whatever means, for that to perceive to occur is okay with me. Justification doesn't have to be with everyone, but I from a bigger picture, I think that's whatever it may be. And Sierra and Shellfish, please go ahead.
After you,
I
Sarah.
was just going to say that to you. I think you were first, but I'm actually, maybe you'll want to go after me because I'm going to kind of oppose a lot of what we've said so far. So just from a personal standpoint, and it's interesting that you mentioned the rise of veganism. I do eat meat. I'm a carnivore. I had a steak last night. It was phenomenal. I don't know at what point, and maybe someone in the room does know, at what point in human history we went from being foragers to hunters and hunter gatherer. But I think it is pretty deeply rooted in the instinctual nature of our species. That being said, I only believe in killing if you're going to eat something. And if I had to kill my own cow to eat my steak, could I do it? Probably not, actually. Maybe I would become a vegetarian. But what I can say is through the rise of veganism and the trends with being a vegetarian, we have developed a lot of really unhealthy alternatives that in the long term are proving to be really bad for humans. There's the effect that like the soy era had on our hormones, specifically male hormones, and decrease in testosterone, all sorts of things that are affecting our ability to reproduce, which I said a little bit earlier. It's our primary function as the human species is to live, make babies, and die. Like that, if we have one purpose here on Earth, that's it: reproduce and keep our species going. So for me personally, I don't really have a desire to communicate with animals. I am super empathetic, and I think that there could be some really negative outcomes to more people developing empathy towards something that is pretty inherently natural for our species. We have killed to live for a long time, for food anyway. And um, yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm at on that.
I really liked that take, and it's more of like, right, putting your foot down to stop the issue that could progress from maybe enabling that kind of tool set. And I actually agree with that, so love it. See, Shellfish, please go ahead.
But I was thinking if humanity actually kind of did evolve with the progression of chips and the lack of need of as much like just proteins and resources in that manner. Because I think, Death Ranger, you were actually talking about one time actually taking in energy itself, like through photonics. So who's to say the next evolution of the species wouldn't be taking in data and light as a source of nutrition, just like plant life? Um, I mean, that would be like the higher elevated intelligence, right? Like consuming light and data.
Well, so okay, so consuming light and data, definitely more of like a nano particle technology, which maybe this is like something 1,000 years in our future, where we were, a type 3 species and we can control such energy, even type 2 species to control energy to such a magnitude. I do think that definitely, when you think about life extension, that's definitely something more relatively possible. Except when it comes to thinking about cells and the regenerative nature of the way that our bodies age, right? We have to not only trick the cell to essentially go back in information time, right? Reread past information of the cell to try and uh, de-age it. No, that's probably a horrible way to say it, but rejuvenate, have the cell rejuvenate itself. Um, from a metabolic standpoint, everything that we know of that is living life wise needs to consume something that is also living to reproduce energy, which then helps for its metabolic state to exist. So, I think, and even today, right, we don't really get a ton of nutrients from our food anymore. I mean, you think about soil, and if you eat like vegetables and stuff like that, it's really great, right? And fiber is super important for the body. But I mean, a carrot has almost 6 times less nutrients than it did in it 50 years ago. And so if you think about that progression of the damage we've done to our soil, it's already really too late in many places to actually fix. So supplements is a necessity. And so if you think about being able to change the cellular rejuvenation factor of the way that the cell is reading its DNA from an age standpoint, that's one part. But we still definitely need a way to supply minerals and nutrients for those cells to do that metabolic state of change. So maybe we don't need food. We think about it from like a supplement. It's like something like the Jetsons, where they got like a one little white pill, and they can eat that one little white pill, and that's all the nutrients they need. But I think we eat because we enjoy it. And to Sierra, right? She said the steak last night, right? Like she really enjoyed the steak, and I felt how much she enjoyed it when she said it. Made me want a steak. I was like, because I really enjoy steak too. Actually, I had steak tonight, so what are the odds? But yeah, it's And Ryan had his hand up, but I saw he dropped down, so he might be on the treadmill right now. So feel free if you want to come back up, Ryan. I'm sorry I was speaking for a moment there after Shellfish. Yeah, I don't know if did I touch on everything that you had talked about there, Shellfish. I'm sorry if I didn't.
No, no, you're very good. You're very thorough.
Selfish, your audio cut out for a second for me. Can you repeat that?
Welcome back up, Ryan. Yeah, feel free to jump in if you want.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys. Sorry, it's kind of busy in here, so I feel weird talking, but I'll just add this. Like, I would have to remain oblivious if the pigs were able to communicate like that. I hunt. I also raise pigs. I do my own slaughter. I do my own processing. And it's important for me that they're happy. They eat better than I do. They have a great life, and they don't know it's coming. They're eating when it comes, and it's over extremely quick. And so there's no way that I could deal with the plea for life. I'd have to lie, and I don't like lying either. So I'd have to lie to it the whole time. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh, this is so interesting that was the example, and you are a real life example of exactly the situation that we mentioned that you would be put into. Wow, that there's not a lot of irony in. Oh man, that was just ironic though, man. Why?
Yeah, what are the odds? That was amazing. And it's nice to have you add that perspective because, as I mentioned, like, would I still be able to eat my steak if I had to kill the cow that it came from? I don't know. I'm not a farmer. I live in suburbia. I buy my food from a grocery store. I have the utmost respect for farmers of all varieties. And Brian, we've known each other for a while, and I didn't know that about you. So that is incredible. And thank you for adding that perspective because you kind of
Is anybody else speaking,
articulated
or am I
what
having connection issues?
I'm talking, Jay, but I guess you cannot hear me. uh, huh. Uh-oh. Well, anyway, thank you for articulating that because that is how I imagine I would feel, and not being in that scenario. I wouldn't be able to say for sure, but I
Yeah,
appreciate your experience.
it sucks. I hate that part. That's why, like when I'm hunting, I won't take a shot unless I'm absolutely sure that it's a good shot. And same with that. It's like it sucks doing it. I hate doing it, but that's why you put a lot of effort into making sure that A, the pig doesn't know what's going to happen, and B, that you do it correctly and swiftly, right? Very humanely. So it is hard. I like before I got into it, I didn't know if I'd be able to do it either. And the first several times sucks, but then you understand the cycle of life, and that's why then you actually put more into making sure that the animal's happy during its life, because that's the eventuality.
Okay, so and I have a interesting twist on this. I'm gonna have to close the space because for some reason the app is doing the same thing beforehand on my other phone. So I'm gonna close it up in like 2 minutes because I have to keep hitting the button. But okay, so what if you had that ability, but the pig said, "Ryan, eat me and enjoy it. Please think of me every single bite." Would that change how you ate the pig afterwards? Just complete opposite twist. I just wanted to hear the opinion, maybe.
Yeah, it would if it understood the symbiosis and gave its life for me. But I just don't think. I think everything is geared and built and wired for self-preservation. So I don't think that's possible.
I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna meme the shit out of that later, Death Ranger. You totally put yourself out there.
But I really enjoyed your answer there, Ryan, and I completely agree. Right, I said this actually earlier myself. Yeah, we life seems to exist in a state of reproduction and reproducing results, and this Darwinism, the thought of survival of the fittest, being something that seems to be apparent in all structures of persistence of life. So, but this was a really great conversation today, guys. I truly appreciate you guys all coming to the space. Ryan, Jay, Sierra, love to have you here. Shellfish, this wouldn't these spaces wouldn't be what they were if it wasn't for all the people who came and shared their information and opinions and personal instances and scenarios where it comes into play with this information we've spoken about. So, well, I hope everyone has a great rest of the night. We will be back Thursday. Oh, Thursday is 4th of July. I probably will host a space for a couple minutes, see if we can get some people in here community-wise, see how everyone's day is going. But if not, I hope everyone has a great rest of the week and a great holiday. And I love you guys and I appreciate you. Go ahead, Jay. I saw you on mute.
You slacking on 4th of July? Come on, man.
I love it. See, motivation to be here. It's exactly it. And we will be here. So hope everyone has a great rest of the night, and we'll see you guys later this week.
Thank you, Dad. Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.